Hello everyone, welcome to our Let's Play series of Tyranny. This is Colonel RPG as usual, and I'm very happy that you chose to join me today here in the camp of Graven Ash. It's not actually a camp, it's a castle, and he's standing out here. Last episode he was telling us what quest we actually need to do. So apparently we need to go to a place where this guy, Stratus Herodin, or however that's pronounced, he still is there. So we need to kill that guy so we can end this edict as well. So apparently we're just the ender of edicts. It's Cora, the ender of edicts. That sounds like a nice like, what's the name of that? It's not subtitle. it's a name, but like the title, I guess. But there's a name for that. There's a proper name for what that is. But anyway, why has no one killed Herodin yet? Because he persists in crouching behind the walls of Sentinel's Stand. That's where we need to go. With the Edict of Storms raging around the Citadel, no one has been able to enter or exit since the last year of the conquest. No bird or missive has left the Wind Wall either. The Edict is all the proof we have that Herodin still lives. Yeah, so tell me of the Edict of Storms. Kairos visited this plague upon the people, this plague upon the people of Stalwart to punish their leader's cowardice. We had thought the Edict would have been dispelled long ago, but to our dismay, it endures. The rust and debris filling the air is a source of constant irritation and hampers our ability to conduct this war on our terms. You should consider the subjugation of Stalwart and the ending of this edict tasks of equal importance. Thankfully, your goals are well matched. The persistence of the edict is tied to Herodin's bloodline. Kairos decreed that the storms will continue until the last of the regents is slain, and the regents to end the edict and return to be victorious. Well, I understand what must be done. I'll make for the Blade Grave at once. Find the last regent, kill him, end this Edict of Storms, and staunch this seeping wound of rebellion once and for all. The downfall of the Unbroken and the old regent will send a message throughout the years, or our rule is absolute, and dissidents will not be tolerated. Could we not find... he's not gonna like that, but I don't really care. Yeah, I can bring his wrath a little bit, but... could we not find common ground with the people of Stalwart? Your decency is a breath of fresh air, he says. Oh, that's also a breath of fresh air right there, considering how long I have endured the company of Cora's rapists and murders. The people of Stalwart made their choice when they refused to bend the knee. They were aware of the stakes, and even the edict has not changed their hearts. Cooperation is a naive hope that died long ago. Yeah. I will travel to Sentinel's Stand and judge by my findings then. I've gained wrath, and that's fine. If your perspective is as lawful and orderly as it ought to be, the right path should seem clear. The Unbroken must be destroyed, and the edict must end. Should you arrive at any other conclusion, I suggest you stifle your opinion and follow orders like any other good soldier. There is one final matter to discuss. My daughter went missing in the second year of the conquest. Yeah, I've heard of that as well. I have reason to believe she's trapped in the fortress of Sentinel's Stand. If you can find Amelia, bring her home to me. Oh, how do you know she's in Sentinel's Stand? It's the one location in all of Stalwart we cannot reach. If her detachment of soldiers was taken captive, she would have been placed beyond my power. No doubt for southern wretches to use for negotiation, and his expression twists with his taste. Tell me about her. She has her father's stubborn persistence. She's an excellent fighter, though more brazen and eager to test herself on the field of battle. I have objected to this disposition in the past, but it seems an integral to her being as the very breath she draws. As integral to her being. Our relationship has endured its challenges. The last several years, I have been a better general to her than a father. Once the war is over and she's restored to the Legion, I hope we can find it in ourselves to know each other once more. What makes you think she's still alive? We have traveled together through this fallen, corrupt land. You are no doubt aware of the aegis I extend to my troops. It is the boon I grant my northerners for loyal service and devotion to our shared cause. Yeah, the aegis, that's right. Graven Ash, Archon of War, is capable of shielding his soldiers from injury and fatigue. We have read about this before as well. As my army feels my guardianship, I am keenly aware of them in turn. Their concern, their pain, it is my burden to carry as their leader. Amelia is alive. I have awoken at night in cold sweats, my bile rising with violence. What torment she suffers at the hands of those stalwart animals is a mystery. I only want her restored to heal in the company of the Legion. Could she have willingly abandoned her duties? Of course. Oh, well, as her father and general, I'm ashamed you would even ask it. I hold my soldiers to a standard that would seem impossible to rabble the court the rabble the court sees on a day-to-day basis. My daughter is no exception. Yeah, I'll find her. I'll ensure her safe return. That is all I ask. Amelia is but one soldier, yet if I had the forces to dispatch, I would make her retrieval my highest priority. She's a commander of the highest renown, and a paragon of northern values. And I'm still at Wrath level 1, which is kind of interesting. Almost a tier 2, but yeah. Fatebinder, says Beric, I offer you my support on this mission. The Blade Grave is a place of memory. I left many cohorts buried among the ruins, and no small part of myself as well. Could you elaborate? The matter is a sensitive one, but I fear to speak it in the company of the great general, though he doubtlessly knows it already. Beric attempts to stand tall before Grivenash. Speak on, son of Barry-Conan. Nothing I have seen you accomplish in the field has diminished you in my eyes, and I know my soldiers as well as I know myself. Ash nods with approval. I lost countrymen by the hundreds in the last day of the stalwart campaign, and for my troubles I became fused in this armor. The Blade Grave is the last place I ever felt human. That is all I will say about it now. The last battle of Stalwart was a terrible time, says Grivenash. Perhaps most of all for you who survived. I mourn those we lost and recite their names often during the morning drills. We cannot restore their broken bodies to the north, but we can remember them as they were. Is that all? Your manner has changed. Beric stands straighter, and for a moment you can't tell if he's going to lash out or crumple into himself. You are prepared for anything. After a long pause, his shoulders sagged the slightest bit. My cohort marched on Sentinel's stand to complete a mission. We failed. The walls of the keep defied us, and the last regent of Stalwart refused to meet us in battle. The coming of Kyrus' edict cut us off from our objective. Because of this, the Blade Grave is also a place of regret. You have much interest in this. You have much invested in this mission. Of course, you can accompany me. I appreciate that, Fatebinder. Grivenash is attentive and understanding to each of his troops, and it pleases me to see his example in you. And in you, Armored One, says Grivenash. Never forget that I found you at the mere germination of your potential, and you have accomplished much in the ensuing years. Thank you, General. Though it's impossible to tell through his helmet, you assume that Beric is blushing. Your map is already marked with the position of the Sentinel's stand, says Beric. It would take me 100 lifetimes to forget those old walls, or the day the edict shattered our advance. Well, I have further questions for the Archon of War. Ask Fatebinder. Take care with your time. The Unbroken crawl over this territory like ants, unchecked by our northern boot. So, I want to know more about the Disfavored. We are more than a mere army. I ensure that the Disfavored Legion represent everything we hold dear in the North. Rigid discipline, training to perfection, respect for law, and the importance of family. As conquerors, it is our duty to teach the savage lands not just how to live up to the values the Empire sets, but how to live for them. So, what is the Legion's history? And there we go, we're gaining favor. Well, because we have favor, he talks to us. As Kyrus conquered the North under a single banner, there were those of us who resisted the call to unification. I was a young warlord at the time, petulant and inflated by pride. I rallied the sons and daughters of the North to stand against Kyrus. Our offensive was valiant. We planted our shield wall between the armies of Kyrus and our homeland, declaring that no tyrants would dare cross us. You actually stood against the Overlord? Unbelievable as it may seem in retrospect, that is so. At the time, I thought it would... It was the only available option. Bending the knee to a foreign power was not a prospect I could audience easily. Our name suggests the army has a blemished history, says Beric, but our uprising in defense of the North is a source of pride. Would that I could have stood in your shield wall, General. You were there in essence, my champion. The bloodline of Barry-Conan reaches into the deepest annals of the northern lore, or else you would not count yourself among my beloved soldiers. Ash inclines his head towards Beric with reverence. We held our ground for a time, drawing the attention of others who would add their strength to ours. Every victory was discussed and celebrated by other warring factions that refused to submit. As you have witnessed, none can stand against Kyrus. Eventually, my allegiance shattered against the relentless onslaught of Archons and soldiers. They brought me in chains before Tunon. You told me that enemies of Kyrus would all be put to the sword unless I took that one opportunity to surrender and join the fold. What did you do? I made the most difficult choice of my career. A defiant heart still beat under my breastplate, and the blood of the North coursed through my veins, yet we were beaten all the same. Out of loyalty and love for my countrymen, I swallowed my pride and bent the knee, offering my sword and my life to the Empire. My army was granted the rights of Kairos' peace, and we lived on as servants of the Overlord. Since we had transgressed and rebelled against the offerings of Kairos' protection, my elite legion was stripped of their decorated name and dubbed Disfavored, a mocking reminder of our past crimes. Even as we stand above all others in the ways of war, we struggle to earn back Kairos' favor. Every soldier in my legion is descended from those who stood with me during the rebellion. I keep them close to me because they were the finest northern stock, and their continued lineage is a reminder of Kairos' mercy. That goes for you as well, child of the North. But your unwavering loyalty and respect to our heritage, by your unwavering loyalty and respect to our heritage, you are beloved in my eyes. And he nods at Beric. Disgusting, says Verse. Oh, look at that. She's face-palming. I hope you don't expect me to listen to this sentimental drivel much longer. You sound jealous, Verse, says Beric. Maybe you just don't know how it feels to be favored by an Archon? Oh, nor would I want to. If the Voices of the Rat takes an interest in you, that's one step closer to having your skin flayed and sewn into his tent. Well, tell me of the units. Most of the Legion is made up of stone shields. They are the bricks in our shield wall. The Iron Walkers are the trained and efficient killers who branch out from behind the phalanx to fight among the enemy ranks. That's a pretty cool thing right there. I didn't know this. That's pretty awesome. Crescent Runners are the fleet-footed light infantry who bait the enemy into premature attacks. The Oathbound are specialized scouts and advanced infantry. Then there are the Iron Guard, tempered in the Forge of War, armored to survive any blow, and commanders of surpassing skill. The only other units are my Earthshakers, the former mages of Cairn who command avalanches and harness nature's fury to our end. Okay, so you regard the Southerners with great severity. The South has squatted in willful ignorance of Kairos' superiority for so long that they don't deserve my respect. As the rest of the Empire coalesced into a united shared culture, the Tearsmen prided themselves as distinct. We looked on them from afar with nothing but scorn. All that I see in the Tears confirms my bias. There is lawlessness, neglect, corruption, infighting, everything the vaunted North has disposed of through superior breeding and culture. Yeah, that's pretty much like what Hitler wanted to do, isn't it? Well. You don't see that as contradictory? You stood up against Kairos, after all. And of course I gain Wrath right there, but I still gain Lore Seal experience, which is something that I want. That happened centuries ago, says Graven Ash, during the earliest days of the Northern Conquest. If you think these periods of history can be easily compared, then you are more short-sighted than I could have imagined. Yeah, it's actually true. He's right in that, but... I like what you did there, says Verse, but one of these days we should sit down and discuss how you talk to an Archon. It begins and ends like this. Don't piss off an Archon. Says the one who can't seem to hold their tongue when it needs to stop wagging, says Serene. If your despicable allies are finished arguing over the time of day, then I will continue. Fatebinder, you should keep your company on a tighter leash. I stood against a presumptive overlord to defend a way of life that no longer exists. The South can afford no such illusions. Kairos has dominated every corner of Territus, and claiming these lands by might is already accomplished in all but name. The realms of the South are willfully ignorant of their place in the world, and I will neither celebrate or flatter it with terms like independence or rebellion. With full knowledge of the consequences, the former lords of the South endangered the lives of their people. This cannot be tolerated. Of course, it's possible that these Tearsmen may come to enjoy all the best of Kairos' offerings, but it will take generations of trial and the long-term eradication of culture as they know it. A worthy pursuit by any standard. Yeah, so basically he's a lapdog to Kairos, the invader, I guess. That's no surprise there. I mean, he's just the invader. He's the invading force. Do the Disfavored have their own laws? I hold the Legion to a particular set of standards. We don't have laws as you would know them under Tunan's teachings, but every soldier in the Legion is aware of my expectations. The first honor of the Legion is in thought and deed. I cannot allow atrocity or heinous crime to drag my respectable Northmen into shame. I expect my soldiers to follow Kairos' mandates and conduct themselves respectfully. The second, honor all oaths with your life. This respects the vows made to me as Archon and Kairos as Overlord. There can be no formal marriage for the Disfavored ranks. This is to prevent any obligations higher than the military. My soldiers can pair up and sire offspring as they wish. The North needs daughters and sons, and I would not force my countrymen to choose between family and loyalty. And last, honor your shield and weapon. The maintenance and care of arms and armor are critical to a soldier's success on the field. Of course, there are the rare exceptions. How do you fare under the shell of iron, son of Barry Conan? Yeah, the Archon regards Beric with interest. Well enough, General. I know I'm not in top form, but I'm able to execute my duties with distinction. As you say, as you say. Okay. I want to ask you about your rebellion against Kairos. He's not gonna like that, but I'm gonna try to play for my favor. I'm not really sure if the game is gonna do that, but yeah, we have a quest to try to figure out what exactly is going on, and I think both Graven Ash and the Voices of Nurat have. Oh no, wait a minute. That's the old one. That's the old rebellion, not the new one. But yeah, we do have a quest to try and figure out what exactly is going on. We need to find proof. But yeah, I want to ask you about your rebellion against Kairos. You are right to be curious about our history, but it concerns me that you would speak of rebellion. The battles of the past are centuries cold and hard as iron. Yeah, well, the uprisings of the past might inform our present efforts. Oh, they might, at that. None of the squalling tears men hold a candle to my efforts, but I would rather you march forth understanding your enemy than not. So you want to hear how I decimated the armies of Kairos, built my legion around northern values, and achieved a measure of success? Well, it's true that I accomplished much as a northern warlord, but my life began in earnest under the overlord's tutelage. So how did you defeat the armies during your rebellion? And of course, those armies were the Scarlet Chorus already, faced by the Voices of Nurat himself. I defeated Blood Ruin, the Archon of War at the time, by leading him into a trap. He must have been so consumed by the fury of the hunt that he overlooked a bit of hasty misdirection. Ash chuckles and shakes his head. Even the execution of that foe was nothing compared to the victory I would win later. I also defeated the Voices of Nurat. The general beams with pride. Strange to imagine that happening so many years ago, and here we are again. My legion nearly destroyed the Scarlet Chorus. Humiliated them, in fact. I suspect the Archon of Secrets is still licking his wounded pride. I wonder if you would remember the conflict differently, says Verse, or at all, for that matter. The Voices has a long memory, but a short attention span. Soldiers are as disposable and unloved as anything can be. The Voices holds his pride and satisfaction in higher regard. He's crafty enough that nothing can wound him deeply, though I seem to have earned the distinction. Yeah, you do. So, what was it like to assume the Archon of War's mantle? Well, at first I wasn't aware that I had assumed any power beyond my normal authority. It might seem obvious now, but war tends to confuse such things. I had no desire whatsoever to claim or accept such a responsibility under Kairos. It took years for me to fully come to terms with my own surrender and subjugation. But if I was meant to for any title in the honored hierarchy of Archons, war seemed an appropriate one for me. In truth, I think of myself as a general and a father. Yeah, I think so. So tell me about fighting the Archons. We won many battles against the Archons, though we did the most damage against the Voices of Nurat. He was by no means the only Archon to assault our shield wall. When the Archon of Entropy tarnished our weapons, we fought with wood. When the Archon of Sorrow sapped our fervor, we rallied around the Songs of the North. I dismantled their offensives, even though I lacked an Archon's education or experience. No doubt this is one of the reasons that Kairos singled me out to join the ranks. How did you rise to power? The tale is bound to the rebellion itself. I always inspired loyalty and devotion in my soldiers, but as the years wore on, I grew to love them in turn. Every stone's shield is as dear to me as a blood relation, and I would go to any lengths to see them succeed. As we know all too well, General, Beric strikes a fierce salute. When we stood tall against Kairos, the women and men of my legion trained harder, marched farther, and endured more than even I had taught them. We were unstoppable. The soldiers credited me this new advantage. I had given them my total commitment, and they felt protected and strengthened by my presence. At first, I thought it merely their nature to look to their leader for courage, but nay, they were the first to discover the truth. You mean the Aegis? You clearly paid attention during the conquest. You know, you said about your Aegis before, but yeah, my Aegis, as it came to be called, covers my loyal soldiers in a protective shroud. They also have 10 times the endurance and coordination of any standard army, and shrug off lethal blows without incident. At first I attributed the presence of my legion to their training and breeding, but soon it became clear that something greater was afoot. I suspect this redoubled Kairos' interest in me. The power of an Archon is something to be nurtured or stamped out in accordance with Tunon's judgment. Once the forces of Kairos viewed my influence over the troops as a demonstrable threat, they resolved to put an end to my defiance once and for all. They sent every army they could spare after us, all but sacrificing the Scarlet Chorus in the process. Eventually, as all detractors do, even I fell. I'm gonna say nothing here. I hope your silence reflects your awe, Fatebinder. Anything less would be a sign of great disrespect. They dragged me to 2 non-escorts in chains, killed a dozen guards on the journey. Oh, by the way, Barrick was the one that said that line, by the way. Now it's Graven Ash again. They dragged me to 2 non-escorts in chains. I killed a dozen guards on the journey. If I was to be shackled for the Overlord's delight, I would pay back the indignity in blood. When I knelt before the adjudicator and felt the force of his judging stare, my temper cooled, turning from anger to fear. Tunon offered me the terms of my own sentence. If I walked the path of insubordination, then the lives of my soldiers were forfeit. If I bent the knee to Kairos, an opportunity that would not present itself twice, then I could continue to serve my legion as their Archon. Well, it was a difficult choice, but not so trying that it paralyzed me. My soldiers had not earned such glory to see it all snuffed out before their time. After I made the choice, Tunon invited me to a council of Archons where my loyalties were affirmed, then my place among their numbers sealed in a compact to Kairos. No sooner had I become an Archon to my soldiers than I became the Overlord's Archon of War. That's a pretty decent promotion, says Verse, and earned through a display of strength. All that he holds the chorus in such contempt. You already know the rest, says Graven Ash. My vaunted legion became disfavored. The Archons even forced me to cast off my northern surname. Graven was a joke at my expense, since I buried my pride in the past. I am a vassal of Kairos now, but the protection of my soldiers is secure. I have guided their family lines across generations, and the disfavored show no sign of slowing. Okay. So do you ever wish you had remained defiant to Kairos? What? What is that, Fatebinder? I hope I didn't just hear you utter those words. He narrows his eyes. You're walking a fine line asking the Archon these sort of questions, Fatebinder, says Barrick. I would take care with how you address the General in the future. Well, I asked you a question, General. As Tunan's Fatebinder, I deserve an answer. And I gained fear with Barrick, wrath from the Graven Ash, and the Disfavored both. And I gained a little bit of lore, but yeah, that's important right there. You go too far asking questions of the General like this, says Barrick. Don't say you weren't warned. Nah, well, I think it's gonna be fine. His loyalty and fear are still totally under control. You deserve nothing. You think just because the adjudicator gives you a measure of authority that I'm obligated to disclose my thoughts to the likes of a legal clerk? I'm not as giving as Tunon. My trust is earned, and your impertinence in thinking you're warranted anything sours my estimate I had of your worth. No, it doesn't. It's still a tier, although his wrath is pretty high. Should be okay. I've never second-guessed my decision. Had I remained defiant, my beloved Northerners would have faced execution, and by my own hand I would have followed them to the grave. The North fell to Kairos. I mourned for the old ways even as I served the Conqueror's will, but over time we rose to become greater than a short-sighted warlord could ever dream. The next time you question my loyalty, remember that I had done what I have done in the name of the army and country. I am the Archon of War. If you seek an expert in backstabbing, perhaps you would better serve. It would be better served in the Voices of the Rat's company. I hope we understand each other. I believe him. I believe him. But I'm gonna apologize. I'm not sure if that's gonna make it different, but I'm gonna apologize. I apologize, Archon. Why even bother posturing for this one, says Verse. He's hundreds of years old. We're just gnats swirling about in his head. Quickly forgotten. Words are easier to forgive than actions, but take care that you don't offend me in the future. Your guileless questioning reeks of accusation, and most Archons will not heed the difference. Yeah, that kind of sent. Oh boy, I'm going to kill him, ain't I? Well, I'm going to plot to bring him down. So tell me about your connection with your soldiers. Every member of the Disfavored is as precious to me as family. Their bloodlines are known and respected, their performance in combat beyond every expectation, and I would go any length in their service. They call me General or Archon, yet I consider myself a servant and guardian of these excellent women and men. But I suspect that isn't what you intended to hear, Well, there is a deeper connection still. That's the, yeah, that's the thing. But to appreciate it, you must understand our history, my rebellion and my rise. Well, I've heard those tales already, but I'd like to hear more about the link itself. My relationship to the Legion goes deeper than anyone outside of it can fully comprehend, and it goes both ways. Our love and devotion protects and envelops us. We are shield wall unto each other. You mean to tell me you can protect your soldier without lifting your shield? I am an Archon. Anything is possible. I can shield my devoted legion from harm and strengthen the fall of any hammer or sword. Those who follow me have shrugged off blows that would kill average women or men 10 times over. How is this connection possible? I could just as easily ask who built the old walls. In the end, it doesn't matter. I don't think he knows. Because he found that before. What he said before, I don't think he knows. Anyway, I'm protective of every soldier under my command. Whether we share a tent or stand realms apart from each other, that doesn't change. Every member of my legion feels the influence I exert on them, and I am unaware of their condition down to the finest cut. Consequently, are you unwell inside there? Ash looks to Barrick with concern. No, Archon, I'm as fit and healthy as I ever was outside of this iron shell. In spite of Barrick's assurance, you can hear the lie in his voice. Very well, then. I trust you'd visit me if you required my attention. Okay. Are there any negative repercussions? Ash regards you with stoic silence, and for a time you can't decide if he's considering an answer or if you've offended him somehow. No. My soldiers are protected, strengthened, and emboldened. In turn, I am secure in their safety. That is the way of my power and my legion. Okay. Tell me of yourself. I'm a family man. I've always believed the culture is grown from a family legacy and respect for the past. I've sired 4 children in my long life. Ashelrin, Priam, Amelia, and Brannix. Did we meet this guy? I think so. Huh. His name sounds familiar. I think so. I'm a general to my soldiers, but a father as well. They have my confidence, my love, and my trust. There is nothing more to give. Yeah, tell me about Brannix. Oh, wait a minute, it says something else. My days on Terratus span many more than any human lifetime, and on this journey, I have learned much. It must be said that I have also grown stubborn. I believe the matters must be handled a particular way, and see no reason to waver in those beliefs, as they are the product of my experience. Yeah, Brannix, my youngest and most beloved. He was joyful and loving, a soldier like his father, and fiercely devoted to his countrymen. He told the most horrid jokes. But he was taken captive at Vendrin's well and later died. I could feel his life at the moment it was extinguished. The circumstances were unusual. None of the quick violence brought about by blade or hammer. He died by some force that I cannot understand. I would not speak of this further. Yeah, he died in... Is that going to be important? He died... Yeah, he was captured and he died somehow inside the spire or something, or the citadel, whatever. Tell me of Ashelrin. My first and proudest accomplishment, he says. What strength she had during the conquest of the Northern Empire. She was slain by Blood Echo, the madman who once laid claim to the title of Archon of War. I would later cut his head from his shoulders with Ashelrin's broken sword. He continued to scream for minutes after the deed was done. I miss her to this day. Would that she had lived long enough to bring a family of her own into this world. Imagine me, a grandfather. Well, there might be time. Tell me of Amelia. She has his father's stubborn persistence. She is an excellent fighter, though more brazen and eager to test herself on the field of battle. I have objected to this disposition in the past, but it seems as integral. Yeah, we read about this before. What about Priam? My son, born to the life I enjoyed before I was an Archon. He fell to a wasting illness caused by Pox, the Archon of Ruin. Disease was but one of many weapons wielded during the conquest of the North. Were he still alive, he would have sat at my right hand, for he was wise in counsel and strategy beyond his years, perhaps even beyond mine. Okay, well, I will see you later. And also, we are out of time. Before we say goodbye for right now, we have something over here on the subjects of war. We need to reply this. We're going to look at that later. That's from Tunon. That's going to be interesting. But also, what I really want to look is at my thing. So, my wrath, right? Oh, okay. So, it's not the wrath of the Disfavored. It's, of the Graven Ash. Yeah, we're gonna need to have a very major thing. You pushed Graven Ash too far with your questioning. Yeah, I don't really care for that. Our favor is right there. I don't know how our wrath is gonna work, but yeah, so we gain and lose as well. You see these things? We gain and lose. So we might be able to lose some wrath in the future. But anyway, for right now, I'm Colonel RPG, and this has been Tyranny. I really hope you've enjoyed it, even though it was all reading, but that's one of the reasons why I'm loving this game so much. Every single combat is important, and every single dialogue is also pretty fun. I like it. There's some situations that are better than others, clearly. But in general, the dialogue just flows so well out of my tongue, and I'm really having a blast playing this. And I hope you guys are as well. So yeah, for right now, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.